So you've heard of Surf City, but now there's an Air City. But what exactly does that mean? You go there to air? First of all, who am I? I am Jenny Addy, La Gringa Salvadoreña. I have over 300 videos on YouTube about what life is like in El Salvador for an expat. And I work for a company called Living Like a Local, where we help foreigners investigate, immigrate, invest, and integrate into Salvadoran society. So if you are considering El Salvador and what role it might take in your future, or maybe your company's future, just give us a call. I am currently here at the Venetian at Bitcoin Conference 2025 in Las Vegas, and I've had more than a few people come up and ask me about nearshoring in El Salvador. So I'm gonna take this opportunity to do a quick video and explain to you guys all about the new project called AirCity. Now I know everybody's heard about Surf City, but this is not necessarily a place you go to get air. This is a brand new $250 million industrial logistics hub right next to the airport in Camalapa. So here we go. So first of all, this is what AirCity is. This is what the front entryway is going to look like. And as I said before, they are managed by Aristos Industrial Real Estate, and these are some of the zonas francas that Aristos already has in El Salvador and that they already maintain throughout the country. So they've got a lot of experience doing this. This is why El Salvador is such a great location, because it's always location, 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 right? Check this out. Right smack dab in the middle. Access to all of this market, access to all of this market. And now it's super safe. It has a very willing and ready to go workforce that is so positive and so hopeful for the future, which is a very rare thing around the world. So next, and this just shows exactly how far it takes. And a lot of times, like, especially if you're from the States, you don't realize how big the US is compared to other countries. For example, El Salvador is technically the size of Delaware. Okay, Delaware is one of the smallest states in the United States. But even though it's small, it's technically all its own country, and it has 6 million inhabitants in it. But it's just a hop, skip, and a jump up to the US, down to South America, and a little bit longer over to Europe. But now, with everybody doing nearshoring, it's about avoiding crossing these big old ponds. It's about keeping it close to home. So these are some in real life kind of time frames when it comes to getting things in and out and around the Western Hemisphere. Now, and as I said before, as you may not understand or realize, El Salvador is not that big. It takes about 2 hours to get to this border, to the middle of the country. This is where San Salvador is, and see this little white zone right there? That's the San Salvador metropolitan area. And the airport is actually 45 minutes south from San Salvador. So they just call it the San Salvador Airport because, hello, that's the only city internationally people really know about El Salvador, but it's actually way down here right next to the coast. But it's as I said before, highway wise, it's about 2 hours to that side of the country. It's closer to like 3 to 4 hours to this side of the country. So it's totally something that can be done in a day, and flying even more so. And here is where the current Zona Francas are already located so far. And this is one of the biggest ports right now is right here. That's Acajutla. That's where a lot of the shipments come in, and they can get trucked right up to here. And then the other big port that's being built and is going to be a massive port too, over on this side, is La Union. That's in construction. It's going to be done soon, but that's going to be a big strategic logistic port too. And that exactly there is where AirCity is at. Now there's also an airport being built over here. It's called the Airport of the Pacific. That's being built over there, but that's not going to be up and operating for a good like 5 years, because they just broke ground, and it's going to be small to start out, but it's going to grow bigger and bigger. But for now, this is where we're focused on. And this is what Aristos has already done in the past. And as you can tell, they are the biggest industrial developer. They have over 1 million square meters of developed space. They have partnered with over 50 national and international clients, and they've created 12,000 direct jobs in El Salvador. And if you notice, check that out. El Salvador actually has a very diverse energy grid. They don't have there's no energy source that's like the primary energy producer in El Salvador, and this is another one of the reasons why. Check out all those solar panels to use and to generate some of their own electricity in order to keep costs down on the national level and keep costs down to you, the manufacturer. So what they're going to do is they're going to combine this Zona Franca with being right smack dab next to the airport. And why do you want it right smack dab next to the airport? Because, first of all, they have their own dedicated taxiway that goes straight down to the main runway of the airport. And the total area is over 532 square meters. So it is massive. And it also has parking space for the aircraft. Now, if you don't know, at the opposite end of the airport is where Airman is located, and that is a aviation kind of repair maintenance shop, and they do a lot. They're owned by by Bob Criete, who is also the owner of Avianca Airlines. And so they do a lot of the maintenance and the repairs for aircrafts all throughout Central America. But they're kind of maxed out on their space. So they're going to be expanding too into the AirCity side of the airport. So these are the types but it's not just aviation companies. These are the type of industries that they're open and they're looking for. E-commerce, like Temu, Amazon, anything that's bought on the web. They have space for those. They're going to have an office center. They're going to have cold storage for, say, like pharmaceuticals or anything that has to be flown cold. You don't want to ship it through a truck, then have to load it onto a plane, then fly it from the plane to the place, then put it in another truck, because that whole entire time it's getting warmer and warmer and warmer. So they're going to have a cold storage facility in order to make sure the survival life and that the temperatures can be maintained for all the products that are being shipped around. As we said, aircraft maintenance like Airman, other Airman suppliers, other aircraft component manufacturings are going to be, it's open to them also too, because that makes everything nice and quick and easy and eliminates logistics for those guys. There is a hotel. Now, it started out, they were going to have a tokenized hotel, and there's going to be tokenized like through Bitcoin, so that anyone could invest in this hotel. That project did not go through. They didn't quite generate enough money. It's only around like 2 or 3 million that they generated, and they needed something like double that, or I'm not exactly sure, but that didn't happen. So now there's going to be a major international chain. I don't know if it's Marriott, Hilton, or whatever, but one of those guys is going to build a nice airport hotel, because right now there's no airport hotel in the airport. There's one of those, the lounges, like some of the VIP lounges and stuff, but they always close down in the middle of the night. So that hotel is going in right there. And of course, there's space for logistics, pharmaceutical products, and even a technical institute to train a lot of this high-tech, a lot of these high-tech jobs that are going to be needed for these industries. Okay, so here is the layout of the airport. So if you know, come down and you go around. This part down here, this is the new terminal. That's really nice, and it's got these really cool blue wave architecture. Down here is the older end, the old terminal of El Salvador. And of course, there is your runway. And Airman right now is down here. And then here is the taxiway that is going to go into AirCity, which is this. And this section over here, well, actually, I think I have a slide. Let me show you a slide a little bit later that cuts AirCity into the different sections that it's kind of like zoned for or meant for. So let me show you that. Here's it from the over the top view. These would be like the hotels that are going to be built right next to the entrance closest to the airport. And then these are some of those warehouses for the cold storage and for the e-commerce. And then down on the far end is where you have the aviation companies. And this is coming from the other end. So there's all your aircraft parking, because you got to park them before you can fix them. So the total investment is the $250 million, which is a big chunk of change down here in El Salvador. But it's great because it is going to generate 5,000 direct jobs and over 10,000 indirect jobs directly around the airport. And the other thing I want to share is that last slide that I got here. So these are the zones that they're kind of cutting it into. So as I said before, this one is for the airplanes and the aviation industries, manufacturers. They get this whole area. And then here is the logistics and the mixed use. And then here's the commercial area for the office buildings and for the hotels. And there, right there, is the access. There is where you get the access to the highway to go up to San Salvador or to go down to the beach. And the airport is right there. And the thing about going through AirCity and going through Aristos is that they are going to develop all this. They're the developer. So let's say, for example, you want to create a manufacturing facility for a airplane part that you make. Okay, so one, you would start down here. You would contract with them for the amount of space. You would tell them the specs about what it is you need for them to build in order to make it in there. And they currently have like a 10 to 12 year agreement with SEPA, that's the airport controllers. And so they would create a contract with you, and then you would rent this space out, and they would build it to suit. And that's the perfect reason of why to get in now, because they can build it exactly to your specs. And they have, and the other reason, because some people are like, well, what if I just want to do it myself, right? Well, then you'd have to go through all the permits. They've already got all the permits in place, the construction permits, the environmental permits, so they can get moving. In fact, their projected date to open is November. So they are ready to go, ready to construct and ready to move things, because that is the vibe of El Salvador right now is let's do this, let's go, let's cut down the red tape, let's cut down the bureaucracy, the barriers, and let's just get producing and making El Salvador a better place for its people and for everybody. So now you know all about AirCity. And if you are interested in, if you're looking into El Salvador and what it might hold for your future or for your company, you can contact me directly and I'll get you in touch with AirCity and with the guys down there, and we can start to see what the possibilities are. Start sending some specs through, start sending some estimates out there, because they are ready to go. As I said, their estimation date for their grand opening is November of 2025. And so they're starting to go now. And they already have the permits and they already have everything in place to get constructing now. and to get your products and get everything going sooner rather than later. Nearshoring is all about happening now. So, in fact, my next video, I'm going to cover the International Services Law, which is the law that President Bukele passed 2 years ago that creates a tax haven for certain businesses. And it may be your industry. And then you possibly may not have to pay taxes for 15 years. That means you kind of create your own little zona franca, except you don't even have municipal taxes. And in El Salvador, there isn't property taxes. So there you go. But it does have a limitation, and there are certain regulations and kind of a few hoops you have to jump through in order to make sure that it's something that benefits everybody. Not just the company, not just El Salvador, but that everybody comes out in a win-win. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. That's gonna be my next video. Coming to you from Vegas Bitcoin, I am Jenny Adi, shining my light so you can shine yours. You can contact us at livinglikalocal.com, and we will see you in El Salvador.